Now, from the downtown of Northwest Arkansas, in Uptown Rogers, with weather from Bentonville to Fayetteville, Fort Smith, and beyond, here's Oz weather meteorologist, Garrett Lewis.
Well, it is snowing again, guys. Time now is coming up on 4:39 in the afternoon on a Tuesday, and we have lots of snow that's falling, lots of freezing rain, lots of sleet. I've done a video update in a while, so I thought, why not? Let's talk about a little bit what's going on and what happens next. I've been doing some posts on Facebook. You guys probably already saw and know about the winter storm. If you haven't, where have you been? Have you looked out the window lately? It's wide everywhere. Well, almost everywhere. Some of us still getting freezing rain. That changes over to sleet and snow for everyone later on tonight. So let's get a look at what's happening now and then what happens next. Pretty clear-cut forecast here. Looking live, this is out towards the Fulbright Expressway. There's just nobody out there. Look at the bridge, though. You know why these bridges freeze? You get cold air under them and on top of them. Doesn't matter what you do. The whole thing's below freezing, especially when it's super-duper cold out there. And it is. It's in the teens across parts of Benton and Washington County. Hey, I'll let you in on a little trick. One of my coworkers, you know who you are, introduced me to a flamethrower. That's how I cleared the driveway. It was probably the most fun I've had since I was 14 or 15 years old, but the driveway as of now is clear. I don't know if it'll stay that way. Probably not, simply because we have more on the way. And that's what I wanted to get to on the weather radar. So here's what's happening right now. You are looking at current radar conditions. I'm going to go over to this radar here in a second. We'll divide it up into different parts and showing where the sleet, the freezing rain, and the snow is. This is current radar. Really what I wanted to show you, and this is why my toes are freezing out there. It's 16 in Rogers with snow falling. There's some heavier bands to the west out towards Choteau, Inola, just to the northwest of Tahlequah. That's going to be moving northeast, so that stuff gets into parts of Benton County here coming up. Looks like that particular band is moving more east-northeast. I think that gets Siloam Springs, Rogers, probably Cave Springs, Bentonville, and Fayetteville too. Maybe even a little bit of Springdale on its current track. But you can see how cold these temperatures are. Now, here's the thing about this shallow, super duper cold air. It's shallow, right? So it's right there. Maybe not right there, but here's what happens as that cold air moves in. It's like a wedge, and when it hits the Ozarks are like it slows it down, and the cold air has to build up enough to where it spills over the Ozarks. This is why Fort Smith usually gets hosed and screwed out of snowfall, mostly because the Ozarks hold most of the cold air back just long enough, and then by the time the cold air gets there, the moisture's already gone. What's happening today, though, is it's already cold enough. We've been holding near or below freezing in the Fort Smith area all throughout the day. Let me see if I can go back to it here. I'll show you what's going on. It's 32 in Fort Smith, and as a general rule of thumb, it's 29 or below that causes road problems, unless, as Mike told me, if it's coming down really hard, 32 is still going to cause road problems. But typically 29 and below is when those things start to freeze up. And so being in the teens in Northwest Arkansas, it's a no-brainer. In Fort Smith, it's a little bit more iffy simply because we have temperatures that are hovering near freezing. And that's because the Ozarks are holding up the cold air, as is pretty much what always happens, it seems like, in the greater Fort Smith area. And another thing to note too, even though you're out there and you don't see the sunshine because we're overcast, there is still incoming solar radiation that hits the ground. That ISR starts to warm the concrete and it warms it above freezing. So you don't get snow to stick on roads as easily during the daytime as you do during the nighttime. The exception obviously is where it's 16 degrees, like in Rogers. That's easy. But where it's 32, not so much. There's a live look out there towards 64. You guys know where this is. So this is out there towards the on-off ramp as you head towards 540. And roads are clear. I mean, there's slick spots on bridges and overpasses, but for the most part, the greater Fort Smith area is looking pretty good, at least now. You can see an RDOT truck out there on the right side of the screen throwing down some sand and scraping the roads, although at least at this point, there's not a whole lot to scrape, but there will be later. As an average right now, I'm still thinking the forecast totals hold at around 6 inches on average for Bentonville and Fayetteville and Rogers and Springdale. There will be locally higher amounts. I do think some places like Bella Vista, on the northwest side of Bella Vista out towards the Highlands, getting towards Sulphur Springs, you guys may get close to a foot of snow out of this thing. It depends on where those individual bands set up. And like I mentioned a second ago, those individual bands are very localized. So they don't happen everywhere. They happen in specific areas. As a matter of fact, you can see it here. There's a little band. So People that live under that are going to get about an inch or two more than people that live just to the north. So these little banding strips, if you follow radar on your phone, you can have a good idea of what's happening.
Now, from the downtown of
That was-
Northwest Arkansas.
That was the wrong button. Man, I'm making errors like my Channel 5 days. It is what it is. All right, so let's look at radar omega. This is going to show us where the heaviest snow and the heaviest freezing rain is occurring. So let's get to that and pull that up. So here we are right now where the rain snow line is changing. So I'm starting to see, you guys can see the changeover from that sleet and freezing rain over to snow. It's happening on Highway 9 right around Spiro. You guys in Spiro are probably already starting to get some of that snow starting to form. That again is changing over from the freezing rain and the snow, which has been through most of the day today. I wonder if we can pull up the iCam that's out there. But what happens next looks a little wonky. How about that? All right, so let's go to that. And there's a live look out towards the casino. That's near Arcoma. And yes, if you look close enough, you can see the snowflakes. So we do have some changeover that's going on. This is Pocola, but it looks like it's already changed over out towards Spiro. And it looks like we have a little bit of a mix here going on still. It's been that sleet rain, freezing snow mix, freezing rain mix out there. But keep in mind, and I said this earlier too, when you're dealing with temperatures that are going to be just near or above freezing, it's just very difficult to really get anything to cause massive problems on the road. Now, that being said, I'm going to zoom into Fort Smith. Look, it's 32 right there in Fort Smith, right? Watch this. I'm going to head out to the west. It's 25 in Stigler. Are road problems coming? Mm-hmm. That cold air is going to move into parts of the River Valley here in about the next 2 hours or so. I think after sunset, we all get snow in the Fort Smith area. It's going to be intermittent. It's going to be conditioned to these bands. So where the heavier bands are located, that's where we're going to see some of the heavier snow. But putting this animation in motion, you can see we got plenty more still out there to the west, southwest that's about to move through. There's a bit of a break, and then there's more that picks up. So I think on average around 2 inches or so, give or take, for the Fort Smith area. It's probably going to be closer to one just looking at this image. A lot of that stuff has fallen today, has been freezing rain and sleet during the day, but it is changing over to snow, and it'll be all snow here in about the next 2 hours or so. Okay, so what happens next? We kind of know what's going on now. What's going on next for us? All right. So this is a look at where we are, and let me see if I can pull this up correctly here to give you an idea. Time in Zulu is 22:44. Nice LED clock on my wall that does UTC and Zulu time. Kind of nerdy, but it's really helpful because you can compare the Zulu time on the screens. So this is at noon today, which is old. So let's just skip forward and why don't we head towards 6 o'clock, right? So here's 6 o'clock, 0Z Zulu, in case you're wondering on Wednesday. But this is the forecasted simulated radar at 6 o'clock tonight. So I'm still seeing very, very heavy snow in Springdale, Bentonville, Rogers, Bella Vista. This is coming up in the next hour to hour and a half. You're going to get it at Siloam Springs. The changeover in Fort Smith is happening now. You'll be experiencing heavy snow in Fort Smith as well in about the next hour. Now, let's skip ahead towards this evening. Why don't we stop it at, I don't know, what do you say, about 9 o'clock? Let's see. So here's 9. So it's still snowing in Northwest Arkansas. It's still snowing in Fort Smith. It's still snowing ish in Poto. Mina, we're dealing with some freezing rain. Hey, by the way, if you're watching from a high elevation area in the Ouachitas, you guys might have some sporadic power outages. I don't think it's going to be a lot, but if you're in one of those areas, that's above 2,000 feet, Winslow, for instance, and then higher than that. Winslow doesn't count because we're already well below freezing in the teens. But farther south in the Ouachitas, where we're iffy, some of that freezing rain could pull down some power lines. I don't think power outages are going to be that widespread, but it would not at all surprise me to see a little bit of outages in the Ouachitas. Talking about you guys in Waldron, Boonville, maybe Mina, Chisholmville, Wicks. We could see some power outages there. I haven't heard of any in Fort Smith, and just looking at the iCam images, the roads still look wet, at least as of now. So this image that you're looking at now, this is 9 o'clock tonight. I'm showing you guys the North American model. I'm going to pull up the blend of models and show you snowfall forecast coming up. This is the North American model, the latest run that ran at noon today, and it's the projection for 9 o'clock this evening. So you can see the snow that's out there. I'm going to stop the next clock again at midnight, see how this has changed. Here we are at midnight. The snow starts to taper down in Bentonville and Rogers. So here in about the next 6 hours or so, 6, 7 hours, we're going to start to see this thing fade. Now, Fort Smith is still getting heavy snow at midnight. So we've got that snow going from now until midnight. So about the next 5, 6 hours or so, we're going to be dealing with that snowfall on and off. And again, those particular individual bands determine who gets snowed in and who gets, the lower totals. So let's see when it's all out of the area. Let's see, there's 1, 2, 2 a.m. I think by 2 a.m. it's all gone. Looks like it, doesn't it? It's all moving east. And then of course by tomorrow morning when you wake up, it's all out of the area. Here's the problem though with tomorrow morning. These temperatures are going to be gross. I mean, we're looking at lows near 7. That's tonight. We'll be below 0 tomorrow night. The low in Fort Smith is 16 tonight. Man, and here's the problem too. And I noticed this, and I told my son this earlier because he was trying to pour water on the driveway, and I said, "Son, don't use water. Use a blowtorch. A flamethrower works way better." Did I mention that on here yet? I don't think I did. It may have been in a group text. Um, but yeah, I used a flamethrower in the driveway, and it worked. It cleared it off pretty good. Anyway, um, everything that's melted on contact earlier today has formed a nice sheet of ice. It's not nice; it's a bad sheet of ice, and then snow has been on top of that. So you have road ice and then snow. When that situation happens, it takes much longer to get stuff off of the road surfaces, and so I'm not sure how much improvement we're actually going to get tomorrow. And the reason for that has everything to do with these temperatures, which tomorrow morning are going to be close to about 7, 8 o'clock, 7 or 8 degrees, and about 16 in Fort Smith. Going to noon tomorrow, we do warm up. We're 18 in Rogers, Springdale. We're about 24 in Fort Smith. It's still below freezing. And then going through tomorrow night, we're not above freezing. In fact, most of us don't get above freezing till the end of the week. It's 15 in Rogers and Bentonville, close to 22 in Fort Smith. Below freezing. And if they don't get it off the road, it's going to stay on the road tonight. Most of the day tomorrow, maybe even Thursday morning. This is what I was concerned with school closings. It's always hard to predict what the superintendents are going to do because, I mean, at the end of the day, it's up to them. It's not up to any meteorologist or any TV station. But it's cold, really cold. Extreme cold watches are in effect. We'll be below 0. The wind chill will be as low as -10, -15. And the snow that's out there, it ain't going anywhere. It's going to be sticking around for a while. And I know we haven't seen a lot in Fort Smith, but even if we get an inch or two, it's going to be really tough to get that stuff off the roads coming up for tomorrow. Now, hopefully, they can work their magic, but just keep in mind, I think Thursday may still run into some weather delays for us. Back over to weather images. Here is the temperature forecast. I'm going to show you when we break freezing, which is probably going to be Friday. Let me skip ahead here. There's Thursday. The end of the model run actually goes to 06 Friday, which is midnight, late Thursday into Friday, and we're still below freezing. So this is a short range model, which we look at for forecasting snowfall. This is the North American model. I feel like this one's handled it pretty good. There's several models meteorologists can look at, but this seems to be handling it pretty well. As far as additional snow goes, now keep in mind there's already like 1 or 2 inches, on the ground, maybe more than that, depending on. You can post in the comments how much you've got at your place. I know there's not much in Fort Smith, but this is the snow forecast from the North American model, and then I'm going to go to the national blend of models, which blends all of them together to give us a good idea. The North American model is still projecting an additional 5 to 6 inches of snow in Bentonville and in Rogers, an additional 4 to 5 inches of snow in Fayetteville, and an additional 1 to 2 inches. 1.4 is what the grids show. So we'll see how that shakes out for us. So I'm going to change this over now to the national blend of models and take a look at this and put this through time. This is additional snow compared to what we have now. Looking here, I'm getting old. You guys, I had to get reading glasses this year. I'm only in my mid 40s. Anyway, so this is the snowfall totals. You can see the highest amounts here are going to be in South Missouri and North Arkansas, 8 inches of additional snow. So this is on top of what we have now. Looks like the national blend is showing close to about 6 more inches, and Fort Smith about 2. I still think those totals hold pretty good as far as estimates go. Right around an average of 6 in Northwest Arkansas, average of 2 in the greater Fort Smith area. But please keep in mind, those bands will create some stupid high totals. I've seen this happen before where you can get a foot of snow right up to about 6 inches of snow. So there's a big difference. And when you're talking snow, you're looking at 10-to-1 ratios. So for every 1 inch of rain, you're getting 10 inches of snow, right? So here's the problem with that. If you get rainfall and you're like, oh, it's the summertime, right? So it rains. If you got a half inch or you got a quarter inch or you got 7/10 of an inch, you probably don't notice that much of a difference, right? I mean, it just rained from point 0.2 to point 0.5 to point 0.7. Well, you convert all that on a 10-to-1 basis, and now you're looking at 2 inches versus 5 inches versus 7 inches. That's why these snow forecasts are so challenging to nail down, and why it's usually good to do an average or at least a spread or a range that shows it. But keep in mind, too, that the social science has always shown that most folks, including myself, usually we focus in on the higher total. So if someone gives you a total from 8 to 12, and then somebody else says, "Hey, how much snow?" They say, you're gonna say 12. You're not gonna say 8. It's just the way our brains work. It's kind of weird, but it is what it is. And so usually averages work good or spreads. But keep in mind, when you see a spread on TV, one of the meteorologists locally is like, "Oh, we're gonna get 6 to 12 inches," and you're like, "We're gonna get full of snow." Well, it's probably going to be closer to 6. That's the average for us. The outliers are going to be up there close to a foot. Could happen though. I think you'd probably get it in Benton County too, just based on what we're seeing. So that's what's going on as far as the trend goes here for what happens next. That rainfall moves out, and overall temperatures start to come on down. I'm going to show you guys I-49. Actually, let's see if we can find an accident out there. Most people are staying home. Y'all are just off the roads. You're like, "I'm done with this." You know what's crazy is on iDrive right now, there are no accidents reported from ASP. Isn't that wild? Usually this time, when you get the snowfall at the middle of the day, especially as we approach drive time, there's all kinds of wrecks out there. I wanted to take you out towards the Highlands exit in Bella Vista real quick. This is going to show you, you can see the roads are covered. So this is what probably happens later on tonight out across the greater Fort Smith area. It looks like there's like 2 tire tracks, right? So it makes like a little trail up and down I-49. Yeah, it's not much, but it's enough to get on through. And I think as we go through the overnight and this stuff starts to taper off, hopefully tomorrow, these dark spots on the road, these tracks, they provide some warmth. But really, even though it's a below freezing, that radiation from the sun can warm it above freezing. And if that happens, the road surfaces typically melt. Now, the exception to that, of course, is all the snow that we have. When you're dealing with all that snow out there, it's a lot more difficult to melt it off the road surfaces and to really get really get some good melting going on out there. I'm not sure how this next map's gonna display, so I'm just gonna pop it up. We'll see what happens. Didn't work there, did it? How about this one? Nah, it looks awful. What I was trying to do is show you guys the temperature forecast here, and this is the what I have pulled up here. I have the national blend forecast. Look at these lows. This is Northwest Arkansas Thursday night. It's like a -5. Are you out of your mind? Highs tomorrow will only be 16. But look at this, and this is what's crazy. It's 62. Are you what? By Monday? Y'all think that's wild? Watch this. Watch Fort Smith. Let me pull this bad boy up here in a second. All right. Watch this. 66? So you're telling me it's gonna be like -5 and 7 degrees, and then by Monday, it's gonna be almost 70? Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Hang in there. It's gonna change quick. Now let's look at the 10-day forecast. This is the global forecast solution. I take these things with a grain of salt because they're model forecasts, and models are just that. They're models. But this is a look at the next what do we got here? 10 days or so. So we go downhill here for the next two. The GFS and Rogers are showing -9. Ooh. Hey, take care of your dogs and cats and everything, all the outdoor animals too. No, mine is not. No one wants to be. I don't want to be out in that. Don't let Fido out in that either. Or in my case, I've got Kihei and Willow. Kihei and Willow are both golden retrievers. Kihei's cream. Kihei means teddy bear in Hawaii, in case you're wondering. And Willow is golden. It's an Irish name. My heritage is. It's actually not Irish. I was looking it up. I did some genealogy. I'm Scottish. If you go way back. Anyway, so this is the Rogers forecast here. We don't get close to 70, but we're 63 by Tuesday. Something to keep in mind too as we roll into March. That's when they usually do the controlled burn. So allergy sufferers and sneezers, you guys are going to be picking it up here soon. That's Rogers. Let me take you to Fort Smith. Let's see what this thing looks like real quick. Survey says, yeah, we're close to 70. Good grief. It's crazy. By Tuesday, we're close to 70 degrees. So we're getting snow tonight, and then we're close to 70. It looks like another front's coming in. It looks like Saturday night to Sunday. So next weekend, not this one that's coming up, but the one after that, I think we get another cold blast. Honestly, I'll be frank, I haven't looked out that far. When I look at forecasts, it's usually about 6, 7 days out. Mostly because past that it's just a really good guess. But you can kind of get trends, and since the trend is showing a dip, I think next weekend we probably get another dip and dive in the overall radar in the temperatures. I wanted to go back to radar real quick and show you guys what it looks like as far as the snow goes now. This does not have a snow filter on it, so you're seeing the greens and everything, but it does isolate the individual bands. You got a band west of Siloam Springs. You have one coming up on Winslow. These are reported snow totals, and so far, 4.8 has been reported by the public, nearly 5 inches. That's in West Rogers, East Rogers, DTR, close to 4. Y'all been downtown Rogers lately? I live in Rogers on the west side, and I work in Bentonville, so I'm in downtown Bentonville all the time. If I can get through the streets, because they're always barricaded, and you never know what you're going to do. It's like being a mouse in a maze. But the east side of Rogers, man, it's going nuts. There's a lot of folks out there, and I was out there 2 Fridays ago. I couldn't believe how many folks were out. So, really revitalizing the downtowns out there. If you haven't been out there lately on like a weekend, don't do it this weekend. It's too cold. Actually, it might be okay this weekend. Don't do it tonight. It'd be a little bad. Um, but yeah, the long and short of it is East Rogers is cool. Matter of fact, F&B NWA, we're opening a new branch out there in downtown Rogers, so I may be popping in and out of there from time to time. All that to say, there's a little mini band that's out there with 4 to 5 inches of snow that's been reported in Rogers. Kansas, Oklahoma, I see a report of 3. That heavier band near Siloam Springs is moving east-northeast, gets into Lowell, probably Cave Springs. There's another heavy band up there around Grove. So far, just west of Grove, they've got about 3 inches of snowfall. And then as far as reports go, I don't see anything farther to the south yet. But these little, you guys can't see anything I'm talking about, can you? These individual bands that are out there, right in there, those are the bands where we get some of the higher totals. And again, just looking back in, this is 4.8 inches there on the west side of Rogers, 4 downtown at DTR, and then Bentonville's close to 4. And these bands, this band that's moving between Fayetteville and Winslow, this is a good one. This is going to drop about an inch or so on top of what we've already seen. And the thing about Winslow, and you guys that have watched this have heard me say this before, Winslow is one of the highest places up on I-49. It's close to about 2,000 feet or so. And that's why when you come out of the tunnel, you're like, oh, it's a new world. Well, kinda. You're at a really, really high elevation and you end up with more snowfall. There's someone out there braving it though. And it looks like RDOT's done a good job of clearing the road surfaces off. Again, that's out there just south of the tunnel. And things look okay-ish, I suppose. Going back to the radar and looking at the difference here between some of the heavier snow totals, you can see that snow that's out there still falling here from Springdale, Centerton, Bentonville, still getting that snow. That changeover looks like it's northern Crawford County now. Matter of fact, I think up towards Natural Dam on 59, you guys are already starting to get that changeover, and I think that's going to probably continue here for us for the next several hours here as that next band makes its way on through and then moves into the area. I'm going to try something different here. Let's see what happens. There we go. My good friend David Latanzio. He is in Rogers, and this is his Jack Link's Wild Cam. He works for Jack Link's, and occasionally I get free beef jerky. Not often, but occasionally. And David and I have been good friends. We actually met when I was over at Channel 5, and we've been weather nerds since. So if you're a big weather nerd and you like weather, you can always follow my Facebook page, which you're probably watching this on now, or you're watching on YouTube, assuming the streaming thing's working, or no one's watching because I haven't checked. But I think you're watching. Anyway, this is out there towards Rogers. Look at that snow coming down. Good grief. He's really got it going on now. I wonder how much snow David's going to get. Probably close to about, if I had to guess, I think he's probably going to be close to about 7 or 8 inches when this thing is all said and done. Radar shows that line. Again, I'm gonna stop it here so you guys can get a better look at it. Hey, it looks like Fort Smith is starting to change over to snow out towards Garrison Avenue. And let's see how that thing looks down to the south. We're starting to get a changeover, it looks like. We could probably check. Why don't we check the Dora camera that's out there from RDOT and see what it looks like. Well, we've got some stuff frozen on there. Do y'all see any snow? Some stuff moving. Eh, or maybe a little snow. It looks like it's just coated the ground, though. I think that's going to pick up here for you here in the next hour or two. And again, the reason that the Fort Smith area typically does not see as much snow as parts of Northwest Arkansas has much to do with the fact that you're dealing with the Ozarks, which essentially dam up the cold air and block it before it actually is able to move south, then move into the area. So that's something to watch here too. And now I'm going to take you out there towards. Why don't we Can I do this? Can I look outside my backyard? Now, I got to warn you, I think my son is running around in the hot tub. It's tubbing weather. It's hot tub time machine weather, right? There's a live look. That's out the back door. Obviously, I might need to point that thing down a little bit or at least take the banner off. But that's what it looks like in Southwest Rogers. My roof is covered. If you looked close enough, what you can't see is the gutters are all full too because I didn't clean the leaves out this year, which I'm going to need to do at some point. But it's still snowing in Rogers, and it's expected to continue through the rest of the evening as the winter storm warning continues in northwest Arkansas. And a winter weather advisory continues for the greater Fort Smith area. One more check of temperature since we've been running our mouth here through 5 o'clock. Oh, 5 o'clock. You might want to check out your local stations. I'm sure Scott, Darby, and Dan are all over this thing too. They live for this stuff, especially Dan. If you ever see Dan out, man, he is one of the bigger weather nerds I've ever met in my life, and a terrific human being too. Um, I don't know why I said that. But anyway, it's close to 14 in Rogers right now and 22 in Fayetteville. Look at the difference here. 14 Rogers, 22 Fayetteville, 32 in Fort Smith. And keep in mind, it's that 29 or below where the roads get nasty. It's 28 in Sallisaw. I expect to start seeing the roads deteriorate in Fort Smith here in about the next hour or so. This is pretty much what was expected. Look west, though. This is nuts. Tulsa's 9, Ponca City 7. Enid is 5. I always thought it'd be nice to own like a cattle farm out in Enid, out in the plains. Just kind of keep to yourself. Wouldn't that be nice? But this is all snow. This is the back edge of it. So once this thing moves through, we're going to be said and done. Probably looks better on this other image here as we pull this bad boy up full screen. We got more stuff moving in. I'm going to change it over to a multi-radar here. Doesn't really do a good job though. Let's see. It really doesn't. It's hard to distinguish between the two. This is all snow though in Tulsa, so you can see the southern extent of this goes out through right around Amarillo, flurries with the heavier snow just southwest of Tulsa towards Oklahoma City. I guess the long and short of saying all this is this stuff is going to come to a close this evening, and by midnight, pretty much it is what it is, with all of it falling and then wrapping up. Now, keep in mind tomorrow, again, it's going to be kind of a messy day out there early on. I think traffic sucks early in the morning. By the afternoon, if we get some sunshine, it will help. The problem is the albedo with this, or the reflectivity with the snowfall. It's going to bounce a lot of this stuff back into outer space. Everything's white. It's reflective, right? It's not dark. So what's going to happen is, unless you have a flamethrower, you're going to be dealing with the snow sticking around for almost all day on Wednesday. That brings us to Thursday. I don't know how many schools are going to close Thursday, but if you're a parent, just get ready, because I think a lot of these back roads are still going to be iced up on Thursday because we're not above freezing. I do think we see big melt on Thursday. I think by Friday, things should get back to normal. By the weekend, we warm up. And then you guys saw it by Sunday and Monday, we're close to about 70 degrees. So all this stuff is going to be long gone by then. Tomorrow looks like the best day to do some sledding out there. And I think overall, the weather's going to look pretty good moving into about the next 7. One more shout out to my buddy Ben L. He's been watching this stuff too. Looked him on the phone earlier. It was messy in Rogers when he left, and then he got to Fayetteville, and things were even worse. And that's how these things go. Is it can vary from one town to the next. So keeping that in mind as you head out tomorrow morning, it may be clear at your house, it may not be clear at your workplace. Check ahead, watch local media. I'll try to do another one of these video updates in the morning, assuming I get out of bed in time. And local media is great at this. I think Five's got their big Jeep that's got all the cameras on it. 4029 has their get ready car, and it's out there driving around. I actually saw both of them tailgating each other this morning just south of the Bentonville exit. Wasn't sure what was going on there, but their managers didn't know until now. So you might want to address that. And Dan, I don't know where your storm chaser is. Actually, I do. It's your personal car, but still, they'll have live road conditions across the area on any of the stations, and radio as well should pick it up. I usually do the John and Deke show on at the end of the week or the beginning of the week. So we'll see what John Williams is up to. I've known that guy for like almost 20 years. It's crazy. Anyway, so that's going to do it for me right now. Again, a winter storm warning continues in effect for parts of northwest Arkansas. Winter weather advisory in parts of the River Valley. Expect accumulating snow. Traffic that's not so great. That's going to continue tonight and tomorrow, and we should clear up by hopefully Thursday. Y'all have a good evening. Play in the snow tomorrow, but stay warm.